Welcome to the Extraordinary Podcast, where we identify God's uncommon work in common life. Recognizing God's work requires intentionality, but articulating it motivates and inspires. Don't forget to subscribe to never miss an episode. In today's episode, I have a conversation with Keith Koresko, where he shares about his love for farming and tractors, but how sometimes life doesn't always work out the way we want, but Jesus can see us through. And it's because of Jesus that we can thrive regardless of the circumstance. So let's get into the conversation with Keith. Keith, thank you for taking time to be on our podcast today to share your story and how God has been involved in your life. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
As we begin, can you share a little bit about your life growing up on the farm and what that was like?
Yeah. In my early years, like when I getting about 5 or 6 years old, on to say 10, Dad and Mom rented an 80 acres. And it was from a guy that lived in Chicago, an older gentleman. And that was a time of me really getting to like farming and the outdoors. And Dad had bought some cattle, and there was a pasture in the front 40 of it. The back 40 was tillable. Well, Dad worked at a brickyard to have extra money for us there. So I helped Mom feed the chickens and all things like that. And it just instilled in me to be a farmer. Even though it was so terrible, stressful for, say, 30 or 40 years of my life back then. And there were some terrible times.
But growing up, you fell in love with farming.
Yeah.
What dreams did you have with farming? What were your hopes with it?
My hopes was to try to get ahead, and then I met this woman through one of my brother's wife's mother. That was part of my stress in life.
So obviously difficult situation with your marriage, was not exactly what you dreamed, but farming was your love. And so basically after you graduated high school, you tried to make it as a farmer. Is that?
Yeah. I worked for my dad, and he was, my dad was the worst. He was an outspoken Slovak, which is Czechoslovakian. And you've probably seen me be kind of stubborn sometimes about stuff. Well, I come by it naturally.
So now you, but you work for your dad, and did you work with your dad until he retired?
No.
Okay, so
That's where this lady come in, and we had one daughter. She lives over in Illinois in Gulfport.
And so you eventually, you and your dad parted ways, and you started out on your own.
It was not good. I rented my aunt's place, which used to be my grandpa's, Koresko's, and he said, "You prefer her over me." Oh, that has stuck with me all these years. But
now
he's gone now, and I can't talk to him anymore.
Now I do know that farming is a huge passion of yours, but there are other things that you've done maybe on the side that supplement income or things that you've enjoyed. Can you share some of those things that you've done?
Well, let's see. You got on there splitting wood.
Well, I know splitting wood is
one of them, and then in with that, I worked at Walmart for 7 years. And gone ahead some, but in the meantime, Marta had passed away, so she was not in that part of my life. But things didn't go good there for about 20-some years.
Now, there were some good things that did come out of that, because I assume at that point you started building up your love for tractors.
Yeah.
And
well, I had it for that. First tractor I ever drove was my dad bought a John Deere a 1937 one. And that's the year I was born. And it was on steel. I learned to drive it, but he finally put it on rubber. And then it wasn't so rough to ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the rubber tires absorb the shock a little bit better than this steel. Now, did it run on diesel?
No, it was an all-fuel tractor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know some of the older tractors there's various types of fuel that they run on, and
there are tractors that were diesel back then, but they hadn't perfected it very good to be good running sound engines like one coming today out of the factories.
So is that your favorite tractor?
John Deere?
Yeah. Well, no, the A37 or whatever.
No, it wasn't. It was a hand clutcher. But Dad finally bought a new A in '51, and I drove that a lot. In 1956, I did all his plowing while he was pushing some trees and stuff with an old farm all in. I plowed the whole month of April of '56 with that John Deere A.
So is that your favorite tractor of all time?
Yeah.
Okay.
John Deere.
John Deere. I didn't know this particular model. If there was one that you have just a special place in your heart.
I like Poppin' Johnny's.
Okay.
2-cylinder. I've got 4 of them right now. Yeah. Because just about 3 weeks ago, I traded one of them off for a 40-20. And I got 2 40-20s. But I'm thinking of selling one of them. We're needing some money, and I only got 5 acres to farm. Yeah. I don't need them both. Mm-hmm. For just the convenience of driving up and down the road.
Yeah. Now, you do enjoy going on tractor rides.
Yeah.
So, I've never been on a tractor ride, and I'm sure there are several people listening who've never been on a tractor ride. At least not. Maybe they driven around the barn or something like that. But you go on ride for miles. So
60. I was on one that was 80 miles when I got home.
Oh, geez. So what do you enjoy about the tractor rides? What makes them fun?
I think it's being out in the open air, the fresh air, the trees and the land. It just inspires me. It's God's land. And we're put here by God to take care of it. And it just burns me to no end to see how some people have spoiled land. But now they have no-till farming, and it doesn't tear up the land as much as the plow did. Mm-hmm. But I like the plow.
Now, maybe if I went on a tractor ride, I could understand a little bit more, but they go so stinking slow. Going on an 80-mile ride, how fast does your tractor go? How many miles per hour?
The one I'm thinking of selling, it goes 22 miles
an hour. All right, that's a little faster. That's still
right down the road.
That's still 4 hours on the tractor to. But you ride with others, so there's a camaraderie, there's a group, and so.
Yeah, we're supposed to stay so many feet apart from one another, but some don't adhere to it. They get too close. But if you don't want to cause a lot of trouble, You just slow up your own tractor and try to stay in it.
Yeah. So, and you've been doing tractor rides for years, I'm sure.
Yes, I wish I could remember the year Dan Miller started me on it. Soon it'll be 15 years.
Yeah.
He's the one that got me in it.
And
I remember him asking me out at that west door, the front of the church, if I want to join a tractor club. So I thought, sounds like fun to me. And he told me when the first meeting was of the club, and I've been in it ever since. I'm in 2 clubs now.
well, good. I know Dan has quite the passion for tractors, and I believe he likes the green tractors
He's
as
a
well.
John Deere man, but he's got a red combine.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
I've asked him about it.
Now you've alluded to the fact that your farming life was pretty difficult. You had some difficulties personally as well, and not to necessarily rehash what you went through, but you've told me before that God helped you through. That if it wasn't for God, you don't know where you would be. So can you expand on that? I mean, we can talk about, God got us through and be very surface level, but what helped you? How did God get you through?
Well, I got sick in 2006. My back started bothering me, and I was trying to finish planting beans at home where I live. Well, I got them planted that year, but I had a hard time getting the tractor back on the planter, and I couldn't even put it away in the shed. I had Opal call her brother, see if he'd come up and put it away for me. I had gotten a blood clot in my right lung, and I don't know what in the world ever caused that. That was part of my difficulty, like some of these questions. But if it wasn't for the Lord, I wouldn't be here today. He got me through it. I was in this hospital in Burlington for 23 days.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I wonder if I'd ever get home again.
So how do they treat the blood clot in the lung? Because I know if you get one in the leg, they give you blood thinners and basically say, let's watch it. But the lung it's getting to very dangerous spots when the blood clot's up there.
I cannot think what a person's called that works with your lungs.
A pulmonologist?
A pulmonarian. And she sucked a lot of that stuff out of there. And that's what got me through.
And so for 23 days?
23 days.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
So
I was lost.
yeah, and was that just because they were so concerned about the blood clots moving?
Trying to figure out what caused it. But I don't know if she ever told Opal what she thought it did or not. Because there were some of them times I couldn't even sleep. I slept half that time.
Well, that's good when we're going through something like the hospital and an extended stay. Being able to sleep is a luxury, but also helps your body heal and restore itself as it needs to. Have you had any issues with blood clots since then?
No.
Well, that's
But I'm on, I shouldn't say it this way, but there's a medicine that is called rat poison, Coumadin. You ever heard of it?
Yeah.
I'm on that. Ever since I was in there at that time.
So, but you believe it's only because of the grace of Jesus that you were able to get through that.
That is right. And I believe that truly. And that's 6 years. Two 2010 is 4. And to 20, another 10, that's Well, it's been a good 20-some years or more.
Well, that's I'm sure that was a very anxiety-filled time in your life. And when you left the hospital, you still probably had concern of how is this going to work out, or blood
Yeah.
clots going to keep coming back into my life. But when you're talking about
And I kept farming that place where we live and trying to heal too. It's not been a fun life.
And you know, Jesus calls us to serve Him regardless of our circumstances, and you know, James 1 tells us to consider it pure joy when you face trials. Right? We don't like that though. You know, we believe hard
I
work.
don't know how that could have been a joy for me, being sick like that.
And fortunately, we can come back to the fact that joy resides in the fact that our salvation is in Jesus. And so no matter what happens to us here, whether we're physically, financially, or otherwise, Jesus has got us. And so we can trust in that.
Yeah. And I can honestly tell you that He's helped me keep some of the tractors I did have and added a few more. I've got 9.
You got 9 tractors still? And how many do you use for field work?
Well, what I've got, they can all be used for it because they're in good shape. And I've got half of them are the new generation John Deere. The other ones are the old tractors.
The old ones that are more fun just to drive around and be on your tractor rides and nostalgic purposes, but they still have the power to be able to do the work that you needed to do. So
I have 2 620s, a 520, and a John Deere 70. That's my oldest tractor. It's a 53. But it doesn't look like that old a tractor because I've had it painted and I haven't dented anything on it or nothing. It's been a lot of rides. It's been as far away as Canton, Missouri.
Oh. That's a long ways. Now, and as you've shared, you've gone through your share of difficulties, personal, professional, health-wise as well. There are people listening that they either have or are going or still are going through difficult times. Do you have any words of encouragement for them through Jesus?
I can tell them that get their Bible, read their Bible, and pray to Jesus for everything that concerns them and whatever.
I think
that's what's got me through 85 years of life.
I think there's a lot of wisdom with that, and some people say, well, where do I start? And maybe you have an opinion on this, but I tell people to start with Jesus. Start with the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because if we're trying to follow Jesus, we need to know Jesus. And if we don't, by reading the Gospels, the stories of Jesus, we can begin to know Him more effectively. And every part of the Bible has validity, has things that can help us in our spiritual life. But if somebody's looking for a place to start, I say start with Jesus.
There's one part of the Bible you had just about a month ago for a couple of months in stories.
The book of Judges.
Judges. You educated me about Judges. I haven't read it that thoroughly. And boy, he was in some trouble.
Yeah, part of what Judges shows us is that people are imperfect, and when sin causes a mess, but fortunately, God has patience with us, and He wants to clean up the messes that we have. And so, whether we're going through difficulties that are caused by ourselves or somebody else, God wants to come alongside and help clean up or restore and help us with whatever we're going through.
To me, one of the dirtiest messes that people get into is having sex with the wrong people, not your own spouse or whatever. And where I learned what that did to people was the first week I was in the Army and seeing how soldiers acted down at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I thought, what animal instincts have they got?
Well, that's sad, and regardless of what we're talking about, when we do things that are sinful, there are consequences to it from a spiritual standpoint. There may or may not be worldly consequences, but it does damage us from the spiritual standpoint.
Yes,
and how God created us to live. So, well, any other words of encouragement for people going through difficult times, or anything else that you'd like to share today?
Well, when we're through here, I'm going to try to do something that I haven't seen my daughter for 4 years. And Pastor, I don't know how to talk to her or if she'll be glad to see me or not.
Well, we believe that Jesus can heal, can restore, and can help us in whatever we're going through, and so we can pray that Jesus will give you the grace to handle that situation and to just be restored with your daughter, because we know that's possible through Jesus.
I've prayed a lot about it. So it's one angle against another, and
well, we don't pretend to know all the circumstances, but we'll be praying for you and praying for you and your daughter, and we know that Jesus can give you the grace to handle it appropriately. But Keith, we appreciate you taking the time today to be a guest on our podcast. We appreciate you sharing, and you're an example of how God can see us through, how God can help us. So thank you for being a guest on the show today. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining us for this podcast. Be on the lookout for how God does uncommon work in common life, and please subscribe to never miss an episode.